Dak Prescott and Skip Bayless. This was something that I was brought to my attention. I normally don't do current events, but when it touches on suicide and something that's very close to my heart, I couldn't resist. I did some research on this. If you don't know who Dak Prescott is, he's the quarterback for the Cowboys, whether you're a sports fan or not. And we don't always realize how many people suicide actually touches or is actually a part of their life, or something has happened in their life where suicide has affected them. This, to me, blew my mind in a very positive way and also in a very negative way for awareness. If you're new to my channel, make sure you hit the like and subscribe button. So Dak Prescott and Skip Bayless, there is media out there right now on this. A lot of people don't realize that in April, Dak Prescott's brother committed suicide. My heart goes out to him. Anytime anybody loses someone to suicide, it's a very painful thing, and everybody's grieving process is different. A lot of times people don't even understand or know what to do when you lose someone to suicide, and one of the most common things is you say, "I'm sorry." Well, sorry doesn't bring them back. You weren't a part of it. They took their life, and it's very different for each and every one of us. It's almost a journey that we go on. I lost my wife and father to suicide. This touched my heart because it's something I think a lot of people mistake. And I have to admit that, yes, I am, in a sense, I guess, a social media influencer. I have a following of about 1.6 million on TikTok. That people look at others in a different light. You have Dak Prescott, who is the starting quarterback for the Cowboys. I'm not a huge Cowboys fan, but I do respect him. I respect his playmaking ability. I do enjoy sports. It is one of my escapes. His brother commits suicide, takes his life, and he becomes very open up about his mental illness, and he starts sharing about it, and I love this. I love when athletes share about mental illness because it starts to break down the stigma of mental illness. It gets people more comfortable about sharing about mental illness, about sharing about our struggles so that we feel less alone. But he also gets criticized by a sports columnist, Skip Bayless, and he's under fire, getting bashed on Twitter and a lot of other places, because a lot of times we feel that if somebody is successful, we base mental health and success on money, on job, on career, on all these different things than what's actually going on in here. Mental illness is so common that 1 in 4 people actually struggle with a mental illness. And we're not open enough about it. I give Dak Prescott mad props for being open and saying, hey, you know what? My brother took his life. I've gone through depression. Preseason wasn't the way that I wanted it to be. I didn't work out. I mean, he was very, very open and detailed about what he's going through. And it takes a lot of courage to do that because we're so afraid that no one's going to understand. We're going to get criticism, that we're going to get bashed. We're going to be shamed. And we get isolated in our head. We feel that we're alone, especially when you're somebody of that stature. You're going to feel like you're alone because, let's face it, you probably don't have a lot of people really close to you. And you feel that you have this sense that you need to be at this level. And nothing can faze you. You have to be the strong one. Man, the strong one is the ones that share. And this is where he has won me over by his ability to share. My heart, again, goes out to him losing his brother to suicide because it is devastating. I have a brother, and I don't know what I would do if I lost him to suicide. I already lost my wife and my dad to suicide. I don't know if I could take it. I get where he's coming from, and being so open with that, I give him mad props. And Skip Bayless goes in and criticizes him that he has no reason essentially to be depressed or anything else because he has everything else going for him. Really? And you wonder why there's a stigma. You wonder why suicide is the 10th leading cause of death in the United States. You wonder why. It's because sometimes people with a voice will actually use it for not necessarily good, but almost in the sense of evil, of bringing somebody else down. I mean, you're a sports columnist. Stick to sports. Don't stick to criticizing somebody when it comes to this. This is more important than anything else out there in the world. So when it comes to this, Skip Bayless now being open and criticizing Dak Prescott, I'm reading these articles and I'm going, man, this is the stigma. A lot of kids look out there and they see these different people and think, man, they're happy, they're perfect. And when you actually see your idol, say, dude, this is what I struggle with. It's that human connection that we all seek. And for somebody to tear him down, man, he deserves to be lifted up. And it's amazing to see the sports world and everybody just come together around him and actually just bash on Skip Bayless, which sucks because it's almost like a reverse bullying happening. But I'm saying, dude, you're losing all credibility. We don't want any part of you. Like, get off of sports. Get out of here. We don't want you in anyone else's life anymore. But it was amazing to see other people rallying around Dak Prescott. And it doesn't matter who you are. I mean, that's that human connection. That's that beauty of bond and connection amongst a human being, and why it's so important to share, because you will get support from people that you don't even know, that may know you. You don't know them. You might not even know them, but they will give you support. And it just goes to show the power of support when you are open. And it goes to show that, you know what, you do sometimes face, unfortunately, criticism. You sometimes face criticism from others. But you know what? That's the minority. It's not the majority. And you have to remember that. I mean, I'm so pro therapy. I'm so pro just getting help and fighting through life, because it is worth it. Just seeing how Twitter responded. And I don't like Twitter. I'm not a Twitter fan. Twitter to me is very toxic. But man, it's a brutal place. And they went right after Skip Bayless on this. People were very, very vocal on how inappropriate it was of his remarks and comments, because he took it as, well, you are out of shape. You're not prepared for the season because you're using your depression and mental illness and all this as an excuse. No. I know people that have lost somebody to suicide, a friend to suicide, that are grieving years later. Imagine losing your brother. Imagine losing a loved one. I still grieve my wife. She passed away 5 years ago. My dad passed away 3 years ago. I grieve them still. It's a life-changing effect on us. And it goes to show of how reality is with this. And there wasn't a lot of notice and publicity around this. It just started really coming out in the press because in April, a lot of people don't realize how many people ended up taking their life during COVID outbreak. When everything started getting locked down, this was something that destroyed a lot of people's mentality, brains, depression on the increase, anxiety on the increase. Our routines were destroyed. It's something that people are really rebuilding their lives from. And there's a lot of fallout from it. And we're not aware of the fallout from it. And that just goes down to show that don't judge somebody. When somebody says that they're depressed, somebody says that they're struggling, it's not that they're lazy. It's not that they don't care. It's not an excuse. And sometimes people take it as an excuse. No, I want to share what's going on. I want to be open about it. And the more that I share, the more that I start to heal through it, the more that I start to work through the grieving process, the more that it releases and vents it out of my chest instead of it coming into here, hurting into my heart, my head, and getting me to the point that I close down, that I no longer share. Now all of a sudden I'm isolated. Now my depression and my brain are going to wage war on me. And that's the reality of it. That's how important it is to share. So I wanted to bring awareness of this of, you know what, Skip, I really hope that you stop commentating. I don't think that you deserve to have a public platform for degrading somebody on a public platform when it comes to the way of suicide. I don't. That's not right. And Dak Prescott, I mean, I'm not a Cowboys fan, but I'm a fan of yours because I know the fight that you're going through. And it's really personal to me. And you're out there still doing your job to the best of your ability through pain and through hurt and through a lot. But just remember that your brother, he's looking down on you and he's proud of you. He doesn't want to be a burden. He didn't want you to feel his hurt. He didn't want you to feel his pain. But he loves you. And to anyone that lost anyone to suicide that's going through the grieving process, my heart goes out to you. Because it is painful, it is hard. But they're looking down on you, and they love you more than you know. If you haven't hit the like and subscribe button, hit the like and subscribe button. My name is Eric. I'm not a doctor, I'm not a counselor, I'm not a therapist, I'm none of that. I share as much as I can when it comes to my diagnoses of PTSD, ADHD, depression, anxiety. I lost my wife and father to suicide, almost myself. I'm a recovering cocaine and alcoholic addict, and I like to share all the experiences, tools, and resources that I can for anybody out there struggling. If you click the description box down below, you'll see links to all my different social medias. You'll even see links to the mental health Discord community that I'm part of that's free peer-to-peer support. Even have links down below to things on Amazon that I use, like fidget cubes, fidget spinners, things that I use when my anxiety gets out of whack to help ground me. It's trial and error to find out what works for you. And just remember, the battle you're fighting in here, you're not alone. Just share and stay a little bit longer because it does get better.